Most Reverend Father Anthony Topil, the respected Vice Principal Dr. Augustine KJ, the HOD Professor Mary Sapna Peter Miranda, my own student Bismi Vijayan, Dr. Bismi Vijayan, and all the other dignitaries and professors and students and researchers of the college, and also those who have come from outside the college. Good morning to all of you, and it's indeed a great pleasure and privilege to be with you in the 2024 Albertian Knowledge Summit. And it's also a very serious and political occasion. Of course, the academic significance is also there. But as our society and country, our nation, the polity and society are also in churning and under great upheavals today, we need to think about the importance of this new disciplinary or interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary formation called Kerala Studies. And it is an opportunity as well as a challenge, like what we talk about colonialism, the advent of modernity in India. It's both a kind of break as well as a kind of bondage. So multiple dimensions are associated with the idea of Kerala and the new formation called Kerala Studies in our academic kind of discourses. Kerala, as we know, is a modern kind of phenomenon, a modern kind of entity that was created only in the 1950s after the linguistic formation of the states in the Union of India. 1956, early November is supposed to be the official year of its birth. But at the same time, if you look at our culture and history, the cultural formations of Kerala, it dates back to thousands of years. And as we know, it is mentioned indirectly, South India, the western coast is mentioned in the Bible itself. And also, as a written record specifically to Kerala, you will find the epigraphs, the edicts of Ashoka, mentioning Kerala as a specific region in South India. The Mauryan Emperor Ashoka the Great mentioned Kerala by naming it in his edicts in BC 3rd century. That is the first written record of Kerala. The first epigraphical and archaeological evidence of Kerala is the edicts of Ashoka, number 2 and number 13, also part of the Girnar Gujarati kind of instructions. Not done in Gujarati. Gujarati was born later, only after the Middle Ages. But in the ancient language called Pali, which is called Pali because it protected the word of the Buddha. That is why it is called Pali. Something that is protecting the word of the Buddha, the gospel of the Buddha. And Ashoka has embraced the gospel of the Buddha as his constitutional principles. The ethics of the Buddha that was preached some 2600 years ago in North India, in the languages of the people called Prakrit and Pali in particular later. So in the languages of the people, the spoken languages of the people, Buddha used to teach the people. And therefore Ashoka also used that language to record his teachings, his principles, the laws of ethics called the Dharma. The Dharma of Ashoka And we are familiar with the Dharma Chakra of Ashoka, the Dharma Chakra as it is called in Pali, which is a national emblem. Baba Sahib Ambedkar has chosen it as the national emblem. The four-headed lions of Saranath that represents the lion voice of the Buddha. Buddha as the Shakya lion, the lion of the Shakyas or Shakya Simha, represented as a four-headed lion, and his voice going to the four corners of the world. That was represented by Ashoka in BC 300, around BC 300, that is BC 3rd century, some 300 years before Jesus, and some 200 years after the Buddha. So anyway, it is Ashokan edicts that record the idea of Kerala in letters, in the alphabets, in the script called Dharma Lipi. The Dharma of the Buddha was recorded by Ashoka on stone, and that is why it is called the Dharma Lipi. Later the epigraphists and Orientalists, they called it Brahmi, Ashokan Brahmi. It is nothing but in Buddhist terms, it is Dharma Lipi of Ashoka. Ashokan Dharma Lipi is also called later in modern times by researchers and linguists and epigraphists as Brahmi or Ashokan Brahmi. So it is that record that talks about at least 2,300 years of existence. He calls the people of Kerala as Kere Putto. Kere Putto, that is the expression in Pali written down in Dharma Lipi or Ashokan Brahmi. Kere Putto means the people of Kerala. O enlightened people of Kerala, my children. Putto also means enlightened beings and also the offsprings or the siblings or the children. That kind of an implication is also there to the word Putto. So that kind of affectionate, compassionate and caring kind of an egalitarian address is done by the Mauryan emperor to the people who are at the corners of his ancient kingdom or the vast empire, the Magadhan Empire. That was one of the greatest and biggest empires of his lifetime in BC 3rd century. So Kerala is having that kind of a heritage and history. At least it is dating back to the time of Ashoka and the Buddha in particular. In other texts, in other ancient Pali texts, which is part of the Pali canon, the Tipitaka tradition of Buddhism, related texts like Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa also talks about South India, the ancient Tamilagam, the Chera, Chola and Pandya lands, and also Tamaraparni, which is nothing but Sri Lanka. So this was part of an ancient greater India. Kerala, of course, was part of an ancient Indian civilization which is related to the river India or Indus. Indus is the name of the river from which we have that name of the country, and also the region. Indus is the river. India is from Indus. India is known throughout the world with the name of this river. Even in the constitution, Baba Sahib has named it as India, that is Bharat. So India first, it is related to the river. It is nothing to do with the Hindu kind of word. India is cannot be reduced to the Hindu or Hindi or Hindustani or the Delhi kind of discourse, which is a hegemonic discourse, according to critics like Gail Ombeth and others. So India is from that river, the Indus River, and the what you call the Indus Valley civilization, one of the greatest civilizations and one of the oldest civilizations in the whole world, which may be comparable to the Egyptian or the Tigris or the Euphrates and other Chinese, Sumerian kind of civilizations. So that kind of a legacy we have. We are originally from that Indus Valley civilization. The South Indian languages are Dravidian languages, and we are also related to the Indus Valley, and even the writing scripts the pictorial scripts are related to the Indus Valley. We have a very similar kind of pictorial hieroglyphics from the Dekkal caves in Kerala. In Wayanad region, we have the Dekkal caves, and in the ancient engravings on stone, we have something like the Dhamalipi, and also which the inscriptions are undeciphered completely yet, but still related to the Indus Valley kind of scripts and pictorial kind of depictions and icons. So Kerala, of course, or South India, Kerala is not a what you call isolated kind of region or culture. It is the Chera land. In ancient Tamilagam, it was called the Chera land. The Chera is also called, invariably called Kera, or Keraputto also means Cheraputto. The Chera Makkal or Chera people. So Chera, Chola and Pandya regions were there in South India. This is called the ancient Tamilagam. We were discussing about the Tamil Bible. Professor Vincent mentioned about the late 18th century Tamil translation of the Bible and the 1811 Malayalam translation of the Bible under the aegis of Basel Mission and also from the Christ Missionary Societies of London. So we are having that kind of an ancient legacy in Tamilagam also, the Tamil country, and because Tamil is such a long and living language, which is a classical language also. In the 8th schedule of the Constitution, Tamil was given the status first. Of course, it was a political ploy during the Vajpayee regime, but since he was a poet, he admitted that Tamil is having a greater legacy than Sanskrit. The Sanskrit, which is written in the Devanagari, that script called Devanagari, which we study in Hindi and also use for Sanskrit now, which is having only a 600-year-old history. Only after 14th century, the Nagari was transformed. Nagari of the people, the Naga people. I met people from northeast here. So Nagari of the Naga people, Naga means an ethnic cultural identity and Dravidian is the linguistic identity. Linguists and anthropologists, they have elaborated on it. So we have that Devanagari as a epigraphical inscriptional evidences emerging from various parts of India only post 14th century. So it is only a 600-year-old script on which this classical language status claim of Sanskrit. And in Hindi, the first Ramayana was in 17th century. Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidas, it was only in 17th century. Even in Tamil, only 14th century, Kambar has written that Ramayana in Tamil, which is only dating back to 14th century. So beyond 14th or 12th century, you cannot go. Beyond 12th century, there is no word like Hindu. Hindu was actually a Persian and Arabic word that was used by the Arabs and the Persians of West Asia to refer to the Indus. Sindhu was referred as Hindu because they pronounce Sir as her, the consonant her, and therefore the Arabs used the word Hindu to refer to the people of the Indus Valley and to refer to the mountains of the Indus Valley called the Hindu Kush, mountains of the Indus Valley. So we have to think about the histories of South India and the histories of the greater India and histories of Asia and the world in order to understand the world linkages of South India and Kerala in particular. We are not an isolated fox in the southern tip of the Indian peninsula, but we are related to the world. We are open to the world, fortunately, because of our ports and our seas and oceans, inland ports and the various rivers, and also the sea coast, 500 and more kilometers long sea coast and all. The Chera land was linked to the whole world, and we were having cosmopolitan relationship with the whole world, West Asia in particular, Arabia, West Asia, the Holy Lands, and also to the Mediterranean and even to Europe. That kind of a connection was there from prehistoric times onwards. So that has made Kerala a cosmopolitan, a truly cosmopolitan and multicultural kind of an entity, a region, a civilizational part of the world. We are linked to all the traditions of the world, not just to the Vedic or the Vedantic or the Hindu kind of the so-called recent. Hindu was very recently coined. Only during the colonial census, British census, that was accepted by the state. Only after 12th century you have that reference even in the North Indian text, Hindu, but originally referring to Sindhu or the river Indus. So India is basically from that river. And it is, of course, multicultural in the sense that we were having the greater legacies of all the ancient religions, the first missionary religions in particular like Buddhism and Jainism, and the what you call the skeptical kind of groups called Ajivakas and the Shramana Charvaka traditions. So plenty of other traditions were here. And from the beginning of Common Era, we have the influence of Christianity as well in Kerala. The apostles have come to South India and Kerala. There are plenty of arguments. Historians are still discussing those issues. I am not entering into the details. So anyway, at least from the beginning of the Common Era, Christianity has reached Kerala. And at least from the beginning of Islam in 7th century CE, we have the differentiation, the categorization of the before Common Era and the Common Era, CE and BC now. Formerly we were using it after Jesus as AD and BC. Now it is CE and BC. Anyway, we need to have these chronotopes, the temporalities and the spatialities in our mind. We need to think about the various influences that we have undergone. The influences of Christianity, then that of Islam, and even before that you have to mention the Jewish heritage, especially in Kochi we have plenty of synagogues. Even in the market we have Kadavum Judapalli, and the Paradeshi Judapalli, it is in Matanjeri. And there also we have another synagogues like the Karutha Judan Maradapalli, or the Black Jews, the synagogue of the Black Jews. We have in Paravur, in Chandamangalam, in Mala, in various other, even in Madaipara, in Kannur, in Malabar, we had the relics of Jewish synagogues. The Jewish heritage is also part of the Kerala tradition. So that's why we need to understand that it is a truly multicultural, truly international and cosmopolitan kind of part of the world. Kerala is that much multicultural. You cannot think of any other region this much rich and diverse in its cosmopolitan and civilizational kind of influences. The religions, the major philosophical traditions and cultures, they have had great impact in the history and society and polity of Kerala. And when we talk about democracy, the tradition of representative forms of government, of course it is a modern kind of idea. The values of modernity, liberty, equality, fraternity, we had it all in the Buddhist past as acknowledged by Ambedkar. But unfortunately, in the Middle Ages, these things were lost because the caste and Varna system, the Chaturvarnya system, is completely dehumanized and otherized the people. Especially the Buddhist people were treated as untouchables. They were casted away as untouchables, and they have undergone great deal of religious and other forms of social ostracism and persecution. Untouchability and caste killings and brutality were forms of religious oppression, argued Dr. Ambedkar, in who were the untouchables. How did the people become untouchables? That question, very important, pertinent question of Indian society and history. That was asked by Ambedkar. And he answered that question by looking into the history of religions in India, the conflict and the kind of rivalry and the kind of hegemony that was established by the caste Hindu system after the Middle Ages in India. So in that conflict between Brahmanical patriarchy, Brahmanism and Buddhism, Buddhism was completely defeated because it sticked on to its non-violent principles and ethical principles, and through cheat and covetous means, as in the legend and myth of Maveli, Maveli being undermined by the cheat of Vamana, the dwarfish Brahman, coming and overcoming Maveli through his deceitful kind of intervention. So as in that story, which is there in Kerala, that is the foundation of the myth of Onam, in a song called the Song of Onam, Onapattu, Sahodaran Ayyappan of Kochi, a lead disciple of Tharana Guru, Sahodaran Ayyappan has sung that story in a nutshell. Danam Kodutha Sumati Tande Shirsham Chavittiya Yajaganam, the cheat of Vamana. And therefore Vamanadarsham Vedinyidenam, Maveli Vacha Varuthidenam. That is the plea of Sahodaran. You need to abandon the ideology, the deceitful ideology of Vamana, that is Brahmanism, Brahmanical patriarchy. We need to abandon that and we need to bring back the democratic rule, the ethical and egalitarian democratic rule of Maveli, argued Sahodaran Ayyappan in a song called the Song of Onam, Onapattu. It begins with that age-old folk song of Pakanar, the medieval Dalit poet of Kerala. Pakanar, who was a contemporary of Edutachan and all, Pakanar has sung that Maveli Nadu Anidungalam Manusharellaru Unuvuli. That song, originally from the Pakanar Tolairam Pattugal, the 900 verses of Pakanar that was destroyed, completely destroyed. And later in early 20th century, in the 1920s, Sahodaran Ayyappan of Kochi has recovered it and re-articulated it and made it into a political verse, a political poem called the Song of Onam, where he talks about appeals to the people to recover the lost democratic tradition, the egalitarian ethical tradition of that Danadharmi, one who is into charity. He will stick on to his word, and that is why he abandoned his kingdom and he was deposed and he was ousted from power through that deceit of Vamana. So Vamanadarsham Vidinjidena. We need to abandon the Brahmanical patriarchy and its hideous Varnashrama ideology, and we need to bring back the egalitarian democratic regime of Mavi. Recently also we have seen that film Mamannan, Mary Selvaraj film, you might have seen, from the Pa Ranjit Pallikudam. So in that film also the same issue is being said, and we have the discussion, the debate on Varnashrama Dharma and Sanatana Dharma. Udayanidhi Stalin, who is the lead player or the actor in that movie, he initiated that, and there was a furor over that. He equated that Varnashrama Dharma or the so-called Sanatana Dharma as an epidemic, as a pandemic to be eradicated, like malaria or COVID and so on and so forth. So the debate is still on. The idea of Chaturvarnya, the idea of Jati and Varna, originally conceived and placed in the Vedas. In the Rigvedic tradition, the first Veda, in Rigveda you have a mandala called the 10th mandala, or a huge chapter is called Purusha Sukta, in which this is placed. The origin myth or the story of the Hindus, Brahmanical origin story, that Brahmins are born from the mouth of the Virat Purusha. The Lord of the Hindus imagined as a Virat Purusha, as a colossal male figure, and from the body organs of the male figure, you have the birth of the Chaturvarnis. Brahmins through the mouth, and Kshatriyas through the hands, and Vaishyas through the thighs, and Shudras through the feet of the pada or feet of the Virat Purusha. And therefore, the fourth and last Varna, they are called the Padaja, those who are born out of the Pada or feet of the Brahmins, and they are having a kind of servitude. They are destined to be lifelong slaves of the other fourfold Varnas, the Trivarnikas. Only the first three Varnas, the Trivarnikas, Brahman, Kshatriya and Vaishya, they are having full-fledged human status and humanity and acknowledgement and education rights and other human rights and capitals. So the Shudras can be their servants, lifelong slaves. And unfortunately, there is no mention of women in this Rigvedic Purusha Sukta origin story. Without the help of women, people are being born. And there is no mention of the Bahujans as well. No mention of the vast majority of people in India. The Bahujans are also literally absent. And the people of other religions, the other religious people, the minorities of the nation are also not mentioned. And women are also out of mention. So this is the kind of obscene story called the Purusha Sukta story. So this was here from the Vedic age onwards, from BC 1500 it is claimed, we don't know about the validity of that claim. Anyway, it is claimed that BC 1500, that is the so-called Vedic age in North India, in the Indus Valley plains, it is BC 1500. So from that time onwards, in North India, and from the 8th century CE onwards in South India, in Kerala and in Tamilagam, this caste and Varna system, the Chaturvarnya system was on, and that has destroyed India. The caste system and the Varnashrama system, which is proclaimed as the Sanatana system, that has ruined India forever. And fortunately, only with the advent of modernity, only with the advent of the European Enlightenment modernity tradition that reached here through imperialism. It is having multi-dimensions. It is through imperialism, through European colonialism that we got a taste of modernity. Because the caste Hindu system, the caste slavery was here. And only with the advent of the Portuguese and the French and the Dutch and the British in particular, we tasted the new ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity, the French Revolution ideals, the legacies of Magna Carta, the parliamentary system, the modern education system, English education and its modernity, everything we tasted only after the British have entered and established their regime. Though it was a colonial regime, it was a break. So it is anyway having multi-dimensions. It's an enabling wound, as even post-colonial advocates like Spivak and others call it as enabling wound. Colonialism as a medicine and poison. You might be studying that essay. The burden of English, in which she talks about English as a medicine and also as a poison, a potion as well as that kind of dual kind of thing. Because it is enabling in the sense that for the untouchables and women in India, it is enabling, it is liberating, and of course it is having colonial dimensions, imperial dimensions, which are exploitative and not egalitarian, that are to be rejected. So we need to reject as English language or the colonial canon or a disciplinary formation or an academic kind of institution. These two dimensions of English are to be acknowledged and also critically pondered, and the harmful effects, the poisonous effects must be rejected. The colonial dimension is the poisonous, obsolete element that are to be rejected, and the enabling dimensions of modernity, liberty, equality, fraternity, we need to accept, we need to embrace, especially in a casteist and varnashrama society like India, because the empire of caste is the lasting empire. That is why. The British Empire was here only for 100 years. Maximum, if you take the East India Company also, it was only for 200 years in India. From those Carnatic wars with Tipu Sultan and his father Hyder Ali, and the Bengal and Buxar wars in North India and Bengal, they got a kind of political kind of control over India, and they have retreated in 1947. 1947 is the retreat of British imperialism from India. Decolonization happened in the 1950s in the post-colonial nation. So the English hegemony, so to say, is having a multi-dimensional plane. I told you, all the social reformers of the people, whether it is Mahatma Phule of Maharashtra, Jyotiba Phule and Savitribai Phule and Fatima Sheikh and Mr. Sheikh and all, they have embraced it. They got education in the Scottish missionary schools. That is why they acknowledged all the liberties and all the privileges of the British education, modernity. In Kerala, another sage, a leader of the people, of the downtrodden, of the untouchables, Narayana Guru, who led the visionary head of Kerala's renaissance in early 20th century, towards the end of the 19th century, by breaking all the taboos and customs of Brahmanism, like idol installation, to using the education and the public spaces and all. Mahatma Iyengali, Narayana Guru, and all the other champions of the people, they have also acknowledged the importance of modernity. In 1914, Narayana Guru has made a statement that it is the British who are our gurus. Our gurus are none other than the British, because they have given me the right to education and to be a sage in this country, because I am an Avarna, I am an untouchable, I am not even Shudra. The people outside the Varna Shrama, the Chaturvarnya system, they are called the Avarnas or Jadi Bahyas or Varna Bahyas. They are outside because they are having the ancient Buddhist and Jain and Ajivaga Shramana kind of legacies. The Shramana tradition dates back to the Indus Valley tradition. We have that meditating figure, the human figure meditating amidst the turbulence of nature. We have in the Indus Valley seal, in the terracotta seals from Indus Valley, you have that human meditating figure. But unfortunately, in the National Museum, it is paraded as a Shaivite thing. Shaivism in India, the earliest form, Pashupata Shaivism, is born only in the 5th century CE. But that seal from beyond BC 1500, that means more than 3500 years old seal depicting the human, meditating human figure amidst the turbulent, violent animals, tiger, lion, elephant and so on, rhinoceros and so on, that is described as Pashupati Shiva. This is a kind of anachronistic kind of claims that cultural nationalism has created in India. These are examples of such bogus and fabricated kind of claims, cultural claims on which cultural nationalism is thriving in India. Anyway, only through education we can question these things, and that is what Narayana Guru has done in Kerala. He has proclaimed in 1914 that it is the British who gave me the right to knowledge and education, sannyasam, and also because the Hindus ruled by the Smritis. He reassertingly proclaimed that fact that the Hindus, the caste Hindus, they are called the Hindus, the Chaturvarnis, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. The Hindus, I am none of that order. So the Hindus ruled by the Smritis, Manusmriti and Smriti Shruti Puranas of India, the Sanskritic texts of India that form the imperial textuality of the lasting empire of caste in India. The lasting empire is that of caste. It is having this much kind of longevity in India, BC 1000 onwards, from the Vedic age onwards, we are having that imperialism of Varna and caste. At least from the creation of the Purusha Sukta in the Rigveda, we have that hegemony of Varna and caste in India. That is the lasting empire. That is why the Guru said, it is the British who gave me sannyasam. And in the time of Rama, if it was in the time of Rama, I would have met with the fate of Shambhuga, he said, indirectly. He implied that. Ramadigalude കാലത്തുകൂടി ശൂദ്രാദികൾക്ക് പോലും സന്യസിപ്പാൻ വകുപ്പില്ലല്ലോ. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് സന്യാസം തന്ന നമ്മുടെ ഗുരുക്കന്മാരാണവർ എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞത് പാശ്ചാത്യരെ കുറിച്ചാണ്, പാശ്ചാത്യ ആധുനികതയെ കുറിച്ച് കൂടിയാണ്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് അബൌട്ട് വെസ്റ്റേൺ എൻലൈറ്റൻമെന്റ് മോഡേണിറ്റി ദാറ്റ് ഹി അക്നോളജ്ഡ് ആസ് ഹിസ് ഗുരൂസ്, ഹിസ് ഓൺ മാസ്റ്റർ. He said, I am having no master here in India or in Kerala, but my masters are actually the enlightenment tradition of Western modernity. That was the acceptance. He used the, what you call the metaphorical word of the British. British എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വെള്ളക്കാർ എന്ന അർത്ഥത്തിൽ മാത്രമല്ല, പാശ്ചാത്യ ആധുനികതയെക്കുറിച്ചാണ് അദ്ദേഹം അത് 1914 തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞു. ഞാൻ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചത്, the point that I am making is that all the leaders of the people, all the Renaissance leaders of Indian social kind of revolution and Renaissance, they have accepted Western modernity, enlightenment tradition, the modern values of democracy in particular, liberty, equality, fraternity, as the founding principles on which the new nation was created. And Ambedkar's movement was an outcome of Phule's tradition. Ambedkar acknowledged his masters, Buddha, Kabir and Phule. Phule, the pioneer of social reform in India, 19th century Maharashtra, and Kabir, the poet, the Sufi poet and mystic, and that means the Sufi tradition of Islam in India. That was, without Islam you cannot have a Sufi tradition in India. So the acknowledgement of the Islamic and other sources, and the Buddha, the ancient wisdom of the Buddha, 2600 years old tradition. That is why the Guru again in Anigamba Dashakam, again in 1913, even before his statement on his own gurus, on British, he has written a kind of philosophical verse that is called Anigamba Dashakam. Anigamba Dashakam means 10 verses in compassion, about the quality of mercy. If you use that Shakespearean analogy, the quality of mercy, 10 verses in compassion. In that the Guru proclaimed, it is the Son of God, the Son of Man, or that jewel, or that pearl, the Prophet Muhammad, and the ethics, the universal principles of ethics in human form, that is the Buddha. These three sources of humanity, these three masters of the world, the Buddha, Jesus and the Prophet, they were what you call enlisted. One by one they are enlisted and projected and accented by the Guru in his 10 verses on compassion. Anigamba Dashakatil Guru അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ 3 പേരെ പ്രത്യേകം എടുത്ത്, ഒരുപാട് പേരെ കുറിച്ച് അതിൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, സിദ്ധന്മാരെ കുറിച്ചും തമിഴക ഭക്തന്മാരെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനമായ പേരെടുത്ത് ആവർത്തിച്ച് ഉറപ്പിക്കുന്നത്, that is emphasized by the Guru in 10 verses of compassion, are these 3 masters of the world teachers, the teachers of humanity, Buddha, Jesus and the Prophet. So this is the foundation of the cosmopolitan, multicultural, multi-religious, pluralistic philosophy of Kerala. That was reasserted and established by the Guru in early 20th century in particular. It is applicable to the Maharashtra context of Mahatma Phule and Fatima Sheikh as well, and Savitribai Phule as well. So everywhere in India, this multicultural democratic paradigm, the assertion of the liberty, equality, fraternity principles are there. That is why Baba Saheb, when he came to the Constituent Assembly, 1946 from Bengal, he also enshrined these values of modern democracy as the foundational values of the Indian Republic. That is what we find in the preamble. Even the preamble is in erasure. Not just the name of India, that is Bharat. Baba Sahib has named it. In the constitution, India, that is Bharat. Two official languages of the state, English and Hindi. And then the 22 scheduled languages, all are having equal status. There is nothing called the national language or the Rashtra Bhasha, according to the constitution of India. Only two official languages, English and Hindi. That is why in the constitution, originally it was drafted in English, and also in the naming part, he names it as India from Indus River. വേറെ എവിടുന്നും വന്നതല്ല, ഈ നദിയിൽ നിന്നുണ്ടായിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. ഫ്രം ദി ഗ്രേറ്റ് ഇൻഡസ് വാലി സിവിലൈസേഷൻ, ദ ഗ്രേറ്റസ്റ്റ് സിവിലൈസേഷൻ, the earliest one in the whole world. From there, that name is there. And in the preamble, he has enshrined all those values: liberty, equality, and fraternity. And justice, he placed it even before these three triads of democracy. He placed justice. And justice, social, economic, and political. That is the order. Social justice is primary, fundamental, without which you cannot have. And democracy is fundamental, without which you cannot think of a new nation. That is why in the preamble, that is also under attack now. From the preamble, those principles are taken away. Socialism and secularism are now being attacked and deleted. And also they have made the different kind of explanation also. We know about that. I am not entering into those things. So anyway, these are the foundational principles of the Indian modern republic as well, modern democratic republic as well. Liberty, equality, fraternity, and primacy. Foundational accent given to social justice. Only that you can talk about economic justice or political kind of justice. And also there are plenty of debates on all that. But anyway, our concern is with Kerala studies and Kerala's multicultural and democratic kind of traditions and legacies. We need to come back to the issue of Kerala. So the point that I made as a preliminary kind of input is on Kerala, mentioned by Ashoka in his edicts in BC 3rd century. And of course, later, we have the foundations of the Buddhist tradition in South India. And that is what we find in the great Changam tradition of Tamil. We talk about the Sangham culture. Sangham and its Sahityam, Sangha Sahityam, Sangha Samskaram, so on and so forth. The Sangham, the idea of the Sangham. In South India, it is again a Buddhist legacy. It is a keyword from Buddha. It's another triad of the Buddha, Sangham, and also Buddham and Dharmam. And he proclaimed it as the triple gems, the triple asylums of the Buddha, the Triratnas and Trisharanas of the Buddha. Even today, we are going to the Shabarimala or the Malayatur with a Sharanam. What is that Sharanam? The idea of the asylum, the retreat and asylum that was originally invoked by the Buddha. Buddham Sharanam, Dhammam Sharanam, Sangham Sharanam. So Sangham is a keyword which is part of the triple asylums of the Buddha, the triple what you call gems and the triple asylums or the Trisharanas and Triratnas of the Buddha. And what is that? Sangham means a democratic order, a democratic society. That is what Sangham is all about. Buddham means enlightenment. Anybody can be enlightened. Anybody can become a Buddha through your meditation, through your self-critical analysis, through education in particular. In modern times, you can say through education and critical thinking, you can be an enlightened person. That is Ambedkar's motto as well. Guru's motto as well. വിദ്യയിലൂടെ നിങ്ങൾ സ്വതന്ത്രരാവുക, വിദ്യയിലൂടെയാണ് നിങ്ങൾ പ്രബുദ്ധരാകുന്നത്. You can be enlightened only through education. That is what that Pulain Kunjambu wrote. Towards the end of the 19th century, he published that novel called Saraswati Vijayam. And that is the triumph of education. Saraswati means the goddess, the muse of learning, of education. Saraswati എന്ന് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത് ഇവിടെ വീണ വായിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന സരസ്വതി അല്ല. But the goddess of English education. ഇംഗ്ലീഷിനെയാണ് ആധുനികതയാണ് സരസ്വതിയായിട്ട് പോത്തേരി കുഞ്ഞമ്പു എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പുലയൻ കുഞ്ഞമ്പു എഴുതിയത്. ഹി വാസ് നോട്ട് എ പുലയൻ, ലൈക്ക് ദ സഹോദരൻ അയ്യപ്പൻ ഈസ് ഓൾസോ കോൾഡ് പുലയൻ അയ്യപ്പൻ, പുലയൻ കുഞ്ഞമ്പു. പിന്നെ ഒരു സായിപ്പിനെയും വിളിച്ചു. ആരാണ്? മറ്റീർ. മറ്റീർ സാഹിബിനെ, സാമുവൽ മറ്റീർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന മിഷണറിയായ, എഴുത്തുകാരനായ, ചരിത്രകാരനായ ഒരു സായിപ്പിനെ പോലും എന്ത് വിളിച്ചു? പുലയൻ എന്നാണ് വിളിച്ച് അധിക്ഷേപിച്ച് കൊല്ലാനായിട്ട്, സഹോദരനെ കൊല്ലാൻ ഓടിച്ചതാണ്. ഒരു മുസ്ലിം വ്യാപാരിയാണ് രക്ഷിച്ചത്. ഈ ചേരമാൻ പള്ളിയുടെ, അതായത് C7 നൂറ്റാണ്ടിൽ പണിത കൊടുങ്ങല്ലൂരെ ചേരമാൻ പള്ളിയുടെ മുൻപിൽ വെച്ചാണ് ഒരു മുസ്ലിം വ്യാപാരി സഹോദരൻ അയ്യപ്പൻ്റെ ജീവൻ രക്ഷിച്ചത്. കാരണം പുലയൻ അയ്യപ്പൻ എന്ന് വിളിച്ച അദ്ദേഹത്തെ കുത്തിക്കൊല്ലാൻ ഓടിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. ദ സോ കോൾഡ് ഹിന്ദുസ് ആൻഡ് ദെയർ ഫോളോവേഴ്സ് ആസ് ഇൻ ദി ശൂദ്ര ലഹള, തീണ്ടാരി ലഹള, വിശ്വാസി ലഹള, ആയിരക്കണക്കിന് കേസുകൾ റദ്ദാക്കപ്പെടുകയാണ്. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ വലിയ നിയമവിരുദ്ധ പ്രവർത്തനത്തിൽ മനുഷ്യരെ കുത്താൻ ഓടിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു പുലയൻ അയ്യപ്പൻ എന്ന് വിളിച്ചു. വാട്ട് വാസ് ദി crime that he committed? He actually dined with some of the so-called untouchables, the so-called Pulaya community people, Dalits. He was one with the Dalits and the Pulayas, and he interdined with them, and therefore he was chased from that Kodungalur Kavu, and a Muslim merchant has saved his life near the Cheraman Palli, the ancient Palli, 8th century, 7th century, 8th century Palli that is now being reconstructed into the past glory in the ancient architectural Buddhist style of Kerala. You have it now. But anyway, Samuel Matir was called Pulayan Matir because he was a bit compassionate. He was sympathetic to the plight of the untouchables in Kerala. He wrote about them. He wrote very critically about the caste system and its inhuman practices, and therefore even that Sahib, that white man, that white missionary was called Pulayan Matir. So that is the condition. That was the kind of casteist legacy of Kerala till modern age, till 20th century, 19th or 20th century, till the missionaries, the Christian missionaries have intervened in Kerala. Basil Mission, I mentioned, Basil Mission in Malabar, and in South Kerala it is, in Nanjinad in particular, it is the LMS, London Missionary Societies, and Christ Missionary Societies, again from Britain. The CMS and the LMS missionaries, they have intervened. And only after that, when a missionary has become an administrator, that Colonel John Munro has become the resident and the British resident and Diwan of both Travancore and Kochi, and he has actually changed many casteist rules in Travancore, especially that heinous, inhuman breast tax was there in Travancore till early 19th century. That was withdrawn officially along with more than 100 casteist levies and taxes by Colonel Munro. Colonel Munro, the missionary administrator. Even C.K.7 has recorded his name. C.K.7 in his life struggle, Jeevitha Samaram, C.K.7 പറയുന്നു, കേണൽ മൺറോയുടെ ഒരു ജീവചരിത്ര ബയോഗ്രഫി ഓഫ് കേണൽ മൺറോ must be written and given to all the students, all the people in Kerala in Malayalam, so that anybody can read and understand those inhuman histories of caste atrocities in Kerala. Breast tax, head tax, poll tax, ornament tax, even tax on the hair of the Avarna, that was levied upon the Bahujans and the people. The Buddhist laity was tortured through inhuman casteist practices and levies, official taxes by the regime, because Manusmriti was the constitution. Till 1950, when the nation adopted, till 1949, November 26, when the Constituent Assembly adopted the new constitution, Manusmriti, Smriti Shruti Puranas of India, Vededihasa Puranas and the Vedanta Upanishadic tradition, that was the constitution of India. Everything was decided and judged upon this Vedic Purusha Sukta and the Gita that officially declares that Chaturvarnyam Maya Srushtam Guna Karma Vibhagaja. It is there in the Vedas in Purusha Sukta, and it is endorsed by the holy book of the Hindus called the Gita, which is placed in the Mahabharata, the epic and Purana, Vedadihasa, Idihasa Kavyadi tradition. And there it is proclaimed that it is God-given. This Chaturvarniya, this caste system is God-given. That is the statement of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, Sri Krishna Paramatma in Gita. It is, I have devised this according to the Guna and Karma. Then Guru has raised in early 20th century from Kerala. Guru has contested it by a simple logic. Guna and Karma, if you are fixing it on Guna and Karma, Chaturvarniyam, Varnavum Jadiyum നിങ്ങൾ ഈ ഗുണകർമ്മങ്ങൾ വച്ചാണ് നിങ്ങൾ നോക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ഈ ഗുണകർമ്മങ്ങളിൽ സ്ഥായിയായ ഒന്നുമില്ലല്ലോ. Humans, guna and karma, that means their qualities and character. It can change at any moment. I was driving the vehicle in the morning. Now I am speaking to the students in the college. Later I will go to some other work. So guna and karma can change at any moment. Every moment it is changing. Then how can you fix varna and caste based upon the guna and karma of a particular being? It's against alterity and change, the possibility of change tomorrow. We need to think of that. We need to think of a different India. A post-Hindu India as Kancha Elaya Shepherd or Gopal Guru and other critical scholars have enlightened us about. Ambedkar has written about a post-human India is to be imagined. So a post-human Kerala is the reality. If you search the history of not just India, but Kerala, you will find that it was Buddhist till the Middle Ages. It was Buddhist and Jain and Islamic and Christian and Jewish. Even today, some Jews are here. Most of them have gone back to Israel. Even today, their relatives and the black Jews and others are here. So that kind of a cosmopolitan, multicultural, pluralistic legacy we have. It cannot be reduced into a Hindu or a Vedic or Brahmanical kind of thing. That is the reality that we need to acknowledge. So, in the Middle Ages, because of this caste and varna, it was almost obliterated. That multicultural, democratic, Bahujan legacy of Buddhism was completely eradicated. The Sangham legacy was terminated. And the regime of caste and varna, it was overruling the whole country. And only with the advent of modernity, with the intervention of missionary modernity in particular, the Christian kind of ethical interventions, it was possible. We have all those missionary sects, and also we have those great missionaries I mentioned, and also the pioneers are there, plenty of them. They need to be mentioned from Gundar to all the others. We need to mention Chavarachan and plenty of such missionary fathers. They have dedicated their lives as a struggle against the caste system also. Of course, it's a missionary evangelical kind of project. There are dimensions of that, but at the same time, you have that liberatory kind of emancipatory dimension is also to be acknowledged and remembered, especially when there are kind of totalitarian attempts to reduce India and Kerala into a Hindu kind of tradition. And the same thing is there in culture also. Whenever we talk about Kerala culture, we are talking only about the official organs or the official discourses and institutions that are funded by the people. Our tax money is used, all the academia and also some institutions related to media, all those cultural institutions, they are using the people's money. But unfortunately, traditionally, they have been talking about a fabricated Kerala kind of culture. Kerala culture, again, like the Hindustani, Delhi kind of discourse, it is related to the Hindu kind of thing. We talk about the classical culture. What is that? Only in, say, 18th century, Kathakali has emerged. Only in 18th century, in Kottayathu Tamburan and Kottarakara Tamburan, you have the Kathakali emerging. But we have the tradition of Chautu Nadagam, for example, at least from the early 16th century. At least we are talking about that. From the advent of the Portuguese, we have Chautu Nadagam. That means almost 500 years. Like the Babari Masjid, it was here fortunately still here for almost 500 years. And that mosque was undone. And the Prime Minister himself is making that kind of pran, kind of puja and all, we know. And here, unfortunately, the Kerala state, the Devasam board and all, they're notifying that only the Malayali Brahman can become a pujari here. Prime Minister, in Varna, he's a Vaishya. He has done that at the national level. But here only the Malayali Brahmanas can become, the Malayali Nambudiris can become the pujari in the Devasam board kind of shrines and temples. This is the unfortunate case after the Vishwasi Lehala or Tindari Lehala of 2018, when the constitution itself was abrogated. The foundational principle of democracy, that is representation, was undone through the passing of the EWS. We were discussing with some teachers this morning about NEP. NEP is also such a, what you call a deconstructive, demolitionist agenda. NEP is also about doing away with the legacy of Indian education. The liberal, the pluralistic, the secular, the cosmopolitan agenda of India is being taken away. Education itself, according to the constitution, is in the concurrent list. We need to think about the states as well. States have a very decisive role and power in legislation regarding educational policy, but everything is being somehow suspended and a centralized, repressive, totalitarian agenda is being imposed on us. It's being imposed. So NEP actually imagines that kind of a nationalistic kind of, as the name itself suggests, it's a national education policy. The cultural nationalist agenda is there behind it. So we have little options. Though the Kerala state is talking about appropriating it and changing it and altering it, we have very few possibilities and options left. So only a political change, only a total, say, overall, or only a regime change can save India now. That is the possibility that we have. And the youngsters must also think of that. We need to work towards that. And the alternatives must be political. The imperatives are political as well. That is one thing that our youngsters, young citizens of India, the new voters, the coming generation will have to think about that as well. So Kerala culture, the point that I am making is that Kerala culture is not Hindu culture. Kathakali is having, or the so-called classical heritage is another invention. It's a fabrication. These are not having this antiquity and all as it is claimed, Bharata Muni and Natya Shastra and dance of Shiva and so on and so forth. These are recent fabrications of nationalism. Nationalism, especially cultural nationalism in its soft and hardcore avatars, they have imagined about these things. And they have propagated it as truth. Because it is given through education, pedagogy. And therefore, the new generation, they will have to believe in it. How much time is left? 15, okay, thank you. So, that is the another important thing regarding culture and society we need to understand. We have a very composite culture, we have other traditions, other religions, other people, the downtrodden in particular, their traditions and cultures are also part of it. Equal opportunity, equality of opportunity, equality of belief, everything is guaranteed by the Constitution as fundamental rights. And the book of ethics, that is the Constitution, that should be the holy book in the present in particular. in fighting totalitarianism and cultural nationalism, the Constitution is going to help us. The original Constitution, as envisioned and drafted by Baba Sahib, is going to be a great book of worth in the present and near future of India in the struggle for democracy and multiculturalism. So, the culture of Kerala, you cannot reduce to the caste Hindu culture and the elitist so-called classical kind of heritage. There are other traditions, the folk traditions, the ballad traditions, the orature, oral literatures, the oral histories, the place names, other cultural and linguistic realities are also there which we need to take into consideration. So, reflecting all these pluralities and diversities in literature and culture and education, we can struggle to create a new Kerala studies paradigm. So, Kerala studies is not reducing Kerala to the caste Hindu Kerala or the so-called Malayaliness, the Maluness that came into being only towards the end of the 19th century. The 1891 chapter called Malayali Memorial, the idea of Malayali was floated. Malayali Sabha was floated. And that included only the Nair community of Kerala. The Malayali Shudra, Malayalis actually means the Nair and the Mudri community, the Savarna, the Bhadra Log of Kerala, like the Chota Log and Bhadra Log of Bengal. It is only the Savarnas or the Chadurvarnya people or the caste Hindus that are under the purview of the Malayaliness. So, it should not be in the agendas and ideals of a new student from Kerala to be a Malayali. But we need to contest and question very critically what is constituting the Malayali and make it broader and more accommodative and inclusive. So that is what we need to do. We need to be representative and inclusive in all the spheres of life. Whether it is in education, we must teach all the texts. Make representative text part of the curriculum and the pedagogy. Make representative art forms and cultural articulations part of your so-called contemporary culture. Make all forms of writings, especially critical writing, self-reflexive and self-critical and critical writing part of your pedagogy. And that is how we can actually address the diversity and ensure the multicultural kind of inclusiveness and openness in our educational kind of context. So anyway, I want to just mention some of these key ideas before this learned audience, and I want you to come up with your responses and your critical engagements and your ideas related to making Kerala studies a more liberal, open, inclusive and diverse and pluralistic and multicultural and democratic kind of a paradigm. That is the challenge and also the possibility before us. I hope all the young students and teachers would take up it as a true educational kind of endeavor and task, and let us listen to each one of you. Let me conclude my initial remarks with this and open the venue for your enlightened discussions and engagements. Thank you.